Hey everyone, welcome back to some of the lessons I learned from the Summit of Greatness by Lewis Howes. Today I really want to talk about a speaker who I didn't know anything about. I didn't know this woman, had never heard of her work or seen her work, but if we look at the number of speakers, probably the speaker that I learned the most from. Um, and completely blew me out of the water in terms of how she approached things and how we talked and her ability to answer questions and her ability to connect with the audience in so many different ways. So it wasn't just the content that she was delivering, but also how she delivered that content. Really an art to how she connected with everyone and mixed in stories with scientific evidence, and really, really fantastic. And that individual is Esther Perel. She is a relationship expert. She's also a psychotherapist, and really didn't expect to gain as much as I did from her talk. To be 100% honest, I didn't know what to expect. I had met a couple people before, and they said they were really excited for her talk, and didn't really have a chance to do any research on her. I read her bio in the information packet, but uh, didn't have any expectations going in, and it was the one of the best surprises of the entire weekend. So, and what Esther really talks about is relationships. She does a lot of work on marriage counseling, marriage therapy, why individuals stray, romantic love, modern love, and really, if you get a chance, I'm not going to talk about all of that stuff that she does, but if you get a chance, really check her out. She's been on numerous podcasts. She has a TED Talk, and it's really just mind blowing if you put into context what modern love is and how much love and relationships have changed over the past 300 years, 300, 400 years. And it really puts things into context, not only from an American perspective, but also an international perspective. And like I said, I cannot speak more highly of her book or of her. I don't know about her book, but of her story, of her work, and just really, I would really, really, really encourage you to learn more about her if you want to improve the quality of any relationship. And that's really what I want to talk about. And one of the messages I got, although the talk was focused around um, romantic relationships and love relationships, I think some of the lessons that she talked about can be applied to any relationship that we're in, whether that be a romantic relationship or not. And she started off her presentation with this quote: "The quality of our relationships is our life." And that is really powerful to me because every time we interact with someone, anytime we sit down, have coffee with someone, anytime we work with a colleague, anytime we work with a client or a patient, we are developing a relationship. And we don't work in isolation. None of us work in isolation, and none of us roam this earth by ourselves. And so really that quote, that point, that the quality of our relationships is our life, really stuck with me, and it really drove home the importance of relationships and how we need to cultivate relationships. We need to approach relationships with the same amount of respect and admiration and imagination that we approach our own life. Right? I think we're really good at being introspective and looking at what happens in our life every day. And we want to blame ourselves, or we want to pat ourselves on the back, or we want to do all these things to ourselves. But very rarely do we take a second and reflect on not just the number of relationships we have, but the quality of each of those relationships, because those relationships are driving what will become, or what does become, our life. And just take a moment today to reflect on that. Take a moment to reflect on your relationships, the engagements you've had with people, with loved ones, with clients, with patients, with students, with colleagues. Just take a moment to reflect on that and think about if that was a quality engagement. Did you want to place blame on the person? Did you bring energy to that relationship, or did you suck energy from that relationship? And then you can look at how your life's going, right? If you're constantly sucking energy out of relationships that you have, or you view relationships as something that only give back to you, or you only take things from relationships, and you don't really give or add to the relationships, you may find yourself being a little unhappy. Um, and maybe it's not necessarily self-improvement, or is a little bit of self-improvement, but also improving that relationship with that individual person, because each relationship is unique. So a couple other things that Esther talked about was this idea of in relationships, there's usually one individual who's seeking some sort of stability, and the other individual is seeking some sort of risk, or there's a need for risk. And oftentimes in relationships, especially friendships or romantic relationships, we find partners who fulfill who fulfill that need for us. So if you're an individual who is in need of stability, you find someone who has some stability in their life, or had stability in their life growing up. If you're an individual who has a need for risk, or transgressive behaviors, or novelty, or adventure, because you had a really stable life growing up, or you have a really stable life now, you tend to seek out those risk takers, those individuals who are a little different from you. And Esther, one of her points is that every relationship has someone who's seeking more stability, and the other person is seeking more risk, more novelty, more adventure, if you will, from that relationship. And sometimes we are not conscious of what we are, right? So who we are as an individual, whether we are in need, or we're seeking this seeking this stability, or seeking this risk. I think if we just take a moment and we think about that, and then we think about, if you do have a partner, think about your partner and see if that partner fulfills that. I just think it's a neat activity to do, and again, a way we can reflect on our relationships, and what we bring to our relationships. The other thing that she asked us to do, and I want to ask you all to do as well, just to kind of start a conversation with people around you. If you can, for a moment, think about one moment of stability in your life. So a moment when you felt safe, when you felt stable, when you felt like everything was going well. Whatever stability means to you. Now, I want you to think of a moment where you were taking a risk, or maybe you were engaging in some transgressions, or you were doing something novel, or you were going on an adventure. Think about a moment in time in your life with that, right? Are you pulled more towards one than the other? And if you are pulled towards more the one than the other, that may be insight on who you are, right? If you really identify strongly with stability, maybe you are one of those individuals who may be seeking out risk, or novelty, or adventure in relationships that you develop with people, not just romantic relationships, but relationships that you develop with anyone. And then a couple more things, a couple more questions I'm going to leave with this. When you think about your relationships with others, again, whether it's a romantic partner, a marital partner, a colleague, a patient, what is your biggest challenge in that specific relationship? Or what is your biggest challenge in that type of relationship? And now I also want you to think about, what is the biggest resource you bring to a relationship? And it may be different for different people. and it may be different for different types of people. But if you can just take a moment to reflect on those four questions, or those two ideas and those two questions, I think that will really start you down a path of thinking about your relationships and thinking about cultivating relationships so you can improve the quality of your life. So I hope you enjoyed this this video blog, if you will, and kind of the lessons I learned from Esther Perel. Like I said, I really encourage you to check her out, learn more about her. Lewis Howes did a great podcast with her as well. So if you are on Audible, SoundCloud, iTunes, make sure you check that out. If you like this, please share it on social media, share it with your students, share it with your patients, share it with anyone who you think could benefit. And if you have any comments, I'd love to hear them. Shoot me a message. And until next time, have a great day.